Today in this video, we're going to be going over some macros for my Brewmaster, and these work for actually a lot of classes because they're more generalized. So I actually use them across most of my characters. Now, some are going to be specific for Brewmaster, or you might have to like adapt them to the class that you're playing. But I've been getting this a ton on my recent commentary videos, so I wanted to just make a dedicated video going over this. I mentioned one in a recent video where I talk about tank threat, and that's with AoE taunting the Ox statue, but I'm going to talk about it here in this video. So I'm going to try to do this in an order that makes the most sense in terms of like progression from like easiest to most, maybe not complicated, but like very niche things. And hopefully one will kind of lead into the other, but we'll see. So the first one that I want to talk about, and we can do that by opening up my macro page here, is I like to start off with @cursor macros. So really quick, you can find all of these in my Discord. It's free to join, just join, and then there is a macro channel, and you can copy this directly for, it's set up for Brewmasters, but if there's any type of macros that you want to translate to whatever character you're playing, you can simply just replace the name of abilities. If you have questions about the macros, let me know in Discord, or feel free to leave them in the comments of this video. So what's nice about @cursor macros is they allow you to basically throw down an item or an ability without having the second step of clicking. So for example, I don't use this for Ring of Peace. So when I hit Ring of Peace, there's this green like radius thing that will show me the range or where the ability will be placed. It's the same thing if I come into my spellbook and I click Black Ox statue, you can see where the item is actually going to be. But with @cursor macros, I don't have to do that, and all I have to do is hit my keybind down here, and it'll summon the Ox statue exactly where I want it. So for the Brewmaster Monk, this works with a lot of different abilities. It works with, obviously, Summon Ox Statue. It works with Ring of Peace. It works with Exploding Keg. These are all nice things that used to work with, like, White Tiger Statue as well as Bone Dust Brew for those who played in Dragonflight and before. But for now, the only one that I use it for specifically is my Ox Statue. And the reason why is because I might want to drop it far away from me where ads are going to be spawning, or I'm going to want to drop it in the next pack that I'm going to do combat with so I can eat those first set of auto attacks. But like I said, you can do it with Ring of Peace. But I want to talk about really quickly why I don't use it for things like Ring of Peace, is because when I'm in combat with a mob, I don't like to kind of guesstimate the range based on my cursor. I like to be accurate with my Ring of Peace. And the only way that I can be accurate is by knowing where the edge of the Ring of Peace actually is going to be. And if you're using an @cursor macro, you'll end up just throwing it down and it might be off. And sometimes if you're off, you might not hit the mobs at all, or you might hit maybe too many mobs, or you might displace them in a way you didn't want, or you might knock them into another group. So there's a reason why I don't use it for Ring of Peace or Exploding Keg. The reason for Exploding Keg is because when you, same thing, you might miss the range on it, and that's not good. But speaking of Exploding Keg, the macro that I use for this is actually an @player macro. And you can do the same thing for Ox Statue, but I don't recommend it for the same reason I just kind of said. I like to kind of be able to toss it out into the pool that I'm about to go into. But for Exploding Keg, what this does is it's an @player macro. So instead of forcing the ground effect to be where you're going to be, or where you want to throw it, you can actually send it right at your player. And this is super helpful, because Exploding Keg isn't an ability you want to throw into range because you want to optimize and use the damage on it. Also, Exploding Keg, for those who don't actually know what the ability does, outside of big damage, is that it makes you basically immune to auto attacks for 3 seconds, as long as they have the debuff on them. And if they have the debuff on them, they're not going to melee you because they're missing, and you don't want to throw it at something in range because if the mobs are in range, they're not attacking you anyways. So when you throw it at your player, you're going to see, regardless of what I'm attacking or where I'm targeting, you're going to see the Exploding Keg land on my character, which will hit all things within the radius of my character. And generally, when you're, setting up for the damage of this, especially when you're playing things like Charred Passions, is you're going to be spending some, a couple globals getting your thing set up. Like if you're playing Rushing Jade Wind, if you're playing Charred Passions, which is a popular choice right now. When you're doing these things, they're set up anyways, which gives mobs the time to actually come to you. So that's a big reason why I'm using Exploding Keg @player. Now I do want to show you guys, here, let's see if this actually works. So you could do the same thing with Ring of Peace. I'm not targeting anything, but I can target it at my player without doing anything. So if this is something you want to do, you can. I don't recommend it because Ring of Peace is good for a lot of other things. But there's a lot of, if there's an ability that you can target at the ground, you can also send it at your player. All right, so next in the list, we have mouse over macros. And this is similar to the cursor macros, but instead of like throwing down an item like Ring of Peace or, you know, your Ox statue, what it's going to do instead is it's going to allow you to hover over a target and do an ability on them without actually having to target that player, right? I don't have to target a lot Alessandro here to heal him, for example, or to give him Tiger's Lust. I can just hover over him and do that thing without going off my target. This is very helpful in dungeons because let's say I'm in combat doing a thing and I'm trying to hit a certain mob and do damage to it. I can be doing this, and while maintaining my target, I can heal my ally here with Vivify, or I can give him Tiger's Lust while not losing my target. I don't know what to tell this guy. There we go. So that's why it's super useful. The 3 abilities I use this for are Vivify, Tiger's Lust, and Detox, actually. Unfortunately, I can't detox this guy because he is PvP enabled, but maybe I can do it on this guy. So I can hover over him. I'm still targeting the cleave training dummy, and I can detox him. You can kind of see the little animation over his head. You can see that I'm just kind of spamming Detox on him. I can also give him Tiger's Lust, and I can also heal him. So again, the macro is in my Discord, but to also kind of show it on screen, it looks something like this. It's show tooltip, so it'll show Vivify, and it'll be /use or /cast. You can use either or. At mouse over, help, nodead. And then what's kind of unique too is I also added at player. And so how this works is that it's currently going to prioritize it at myself unless I'm mousing over someone. And this doesn't matter super much, but it'll pretty much always Vivify me until I'm mousing over someone, which then it takes priority to cast at the mouse over as long as they are a friendly and they're not dead. If they were dead and I tried to mouse over them and cast Vivify, it'd still put it on myself. So next we have focus macros, and the way that I like this comes in kind of 2 parts. And so the reason why you might use a focus macro is for the primary reason I use a focus macro is for kicks. And so what this will allow me to do is, let's pull this up here. So what it looks like is this. This is something you can use on all classes, but you have to set it up for your specific kick. So if you're like a mage, you want counterspell. If you're a demon hunter, you want disrupt or whatever it is, or mind freeze for a DK. You can change this name around, obviously. But what it's going to do is /cast at focus. That focus has to exist, and it has to be a harmful mob. And what it'll do is it'll cast Spear Hand Strike, and this is going to be the spell if there's an at focus target. It'll kick this target over the target that I'm actually targeting. There's a little semicolon in here, and then it's going to be at target harm, making sure that it's actually a enemy mob, and then it's Spear Hand Strike. So what this does is as I'm targeting this man here, and I cast Kick, it's going to Spear Hand Strike this dude, but if I set focus to this dummy next to me, and I'm kind of just like casting my spells, I'm doing damage, this guy's a melee mob, this guy's a caster, now, while I'm still targeting this guy, my kick will kick this guy. Now, obviously, it's hard to see because this guy's not casting anything. So what you can do then is when you're running into a pack, you can set focus to one of the mobs. Let's say it's this dude on the far left. We'll set focus to him. Let me clear my focus. It'll set focus to this guy. But let's say this is the dude right here that we want to be like attacking and putting our priority damage into. So I can be hitting this guy, and when I see this dude cast, I don't have to change my target. I don't have to do anything about it. All I have to do is hit my kick button, and it's going to kick this dude here. So this one's very convenient. You'll see me in all my commentary runs or any runs I do on stream and all this stuff, is you'll see this frame that pops up randomly in some pulls where I'm setting focus to the thing that I want to kick while targeting my main target. So I now no longer have to worry about being like, oh shit, I accidentally tab targeted and now I have to go back to the target before the next spell goes off. Because quite frankly, a lot of these spells, especially in higher keys, if they go off, you're dead. Your group's going to wipe. So prioritizing like a focus macro is very useful. Now, like I said, there are 2 parts to this. The first part is setting up the actual focus macro. And then the second part is actually setting up a macro to allow you to set focus. And this one is very easy to do. You can set it up in a few different ways, but the way that I do it is I do /focus at mouse over. Now you don't have to do it at mouse over. You can do just /focus at target. And it'll focus whoever you're targeting, and then you can tab target around. But for me, what I like to do is I will run into a pole and I will mouse over the mob that I want to do, and that's what allows me to set focus to basically anything I'm mousing over without changing my target. I can even mouse over myself. Now you could just do /focus, and /focus will focus whatever you're currently targeting. So there's two ways to do it. So you can you can go into a pole and you can have just a focus macro, which will focus the thing that you're currently targeting. So then you're allowed to freely target swap around. Or you can do it a little bit more complicated like I do, where I do it in the sense where I'm probably not going to target the thing I care to kick, but I will try to set focus to it early on in a pull, and you can see my little focus arrows right here. You can tell what I'm focusing. Oop, can't do that because I don't have nameplates. So yeah, that comes in two parts. Very useful. This is like one of the biggest tips I have for any Mythic Plus player. It's ironic that I put it in the middle of my video, but that is like the biggest thing I think any player can do to improve their ability to stop kicks, while also reducing like the anxiety of like, oh shit, I fucking tab targeted an accident and now like I have to like try to find this thing in all the nameplates. So just have a focus macro for kicks. Okay, so I have two more that I want to go over. First, it's Modification Macros. And this is something that I really started using towards the end of like Shadowlands going into like Dragonflight, because there was quite some button bloat. I've actually kind of always used, now that I think about it, I kind of, as a bear main, I had a modification macro for the different forms I wanted to swap into. So I had one bind that would swap me into any form, but it'd be like if I hold down control, it'll go bear form. If I hold down alt, it'll go cat form. So you can like use modification macros to reduce the amount of keybinds you actually have to have, arguably. You're still like shifting around one. But for example, you can see down here on my action bars, they're kind of faded because I have the alpha set lower. If I regularly, this is what my bars look like, but if I hold down alt, you're going to see that some of these actually shift. You're going to see my 4, my Purifying Brew goes into Diffuse Magic. My 5, my Expel Harm, it goes into my Trinkets. And you're going to see my Shift C from my Dampen Harm is going to turn into a question mark. Now, this is because that is actually keybound to Zen Meditation, which I'm not currently in. But what it does is it means that when I press Shift C, or maybe it's better if I just use, like, if I press 4, it's going to Purify, if I have Stagger. But if I hold down Alt and hit 4, it's going to activate Diffuse Magic. So I don't really have to think about, I have to have, like, all these keybinds. I can basically kind of make almost like two little profiles that will swap between if I hold down Alt. You can do this with Control, you can do this with Shift. Now, a lot of my keybinds already have Shift in it, like I have Shift 5 for my Ox Statue, I have Shift F for my Breath of Fire. But when I hold down Alt, you're going to see that these are going to change. So this is very helpful. You can do this with a number of different things, from like your rotational abilities to defensives to trinkets to like, there's a ton of different stuff you can use. Now, I prefer to use it mostly for defensives or trinkets because I like to try to get all of the keybinds into 1 or 2 buttons. So I don't have to think about like, okay, I have 4 defensives and now I have 4 different keybinds. Now it's like I have 1 keybind, and if I hit Alt or Shift, like it'll change that keybind to the just different things. Once again, this is in my Discord, but this, for example, it's /cast. And now the first thing you want to do is it has to have the modification of Alt. So it's mod:alt, and it's in a closed bracket, and then you have Diffuse Magic. So this is the second ability, the underlying ability. And the main one is Purifying Brew. So it's going to do cast Purifying Brew unless there's the modification button, which is Alt. And that's how that works. So you can set this up with a ton of different abilities. For example, I have cast mod alt Zen Meditation with Dampen Harm. So that's that Shift C you're seeing. And then you're also going to see I have Diffuse, or not Diffuse. Where's my little, am I crazy? Oh, I am dumb. It's labeled Diffuse, but it's, so this, this one's funny. So it's /use mod alt 14. 14 is my trinket slot with Expel Harm. The funny thing is here is that I actually set this macro up a long time ago in Dragonflight, and it was because my 14th button, which right now is my Foul Behemoths, what I did was I had a defensive trinket here. I think I had Tree Mouse Festering Splinter, and then I had at some point like my Fearax Tainted Rage Heart. So what it allowed me to do was I had Expel Harm, but if I hit Alt, it would actually change it into a defensive trinket. Right now it is an offensive trinket, arguably. I mean, it has a little bit of defensive value, but not a lot. But those are how mod alt macros work, or modification macros. Last but not least, I have covered this already. I'm not going to go over it too much in this video, but I have a giant AoE Taunt Macro, and the way that this works is if there's no modification, cast nomod, it's just going to cast Provoke. It's a button you don't ever have to think about, you might accidentally hit. So it's always going to taunt this guy right here. This is the guy I'm targeting. If I was targeting this guy, I would taunt him instead. But if I place down my Ox statue, which I'm going to move it here. If I hold down Alt, and I can open up the macro to show you, what it's going to do instead is if there is a mod Alt, it's going to specifically target the Black Ox statue. In the same sense, if the modification Alt is being held, it'll cast Provoke at said statue. And then if the mod Alt existed, which is what just happened here, it's going to then instantly target my last target. So this is interesting because what it's going to do is it's going to, almost within a fraction of a second, it's going to swap targets, taunt this, and then target the target I'm targeting. Saying that was so weird. So, and you'll see this here in a second, is if I hold down my Alt, it's not going to change the actual frame because it's still Provoke, but instead of taunting just one mob, you're going to see two Provoke icons show up. So I'm holding down Alt, and now I'm going to hit F, and now you're going to see that it provoked both targets because they're within range of my statue. And this is going to be this is going to remain true if I put down the statue over here. I hold down Mod, Alt, and now you're going to see I just provoked 5 targets. But it's not changing the keybind at all. All I have to do is I have to remember to hold down Alt and hit that same taunt button, which is F. Very useful for dungeons where there might be spawning ads. It's good if there's a ton of ads and you're trying to like get mobs grouped without committing a lot of your bigger cooldowns yet, like Exploding Keg or Weapons of Order. It's just nice to have an AoE taunt. It's a way to generate a ton of threat. For the instances where you accidentally wipe or you die and your group's trying to like kite mobs away and you're running back, this is very niche. You're running back, your friends are kiting, you drop an Ox at you, then you can AoE taunt and then just generate all your threat again. It's extremely useful. I love this macro. There are alternative options. Again, I'm going to have the video linked here where I talk about it because I think some people left some alternative options in the comment section, which was really helpful. But those are all the macros that I currently use for Brewmaster specifically. I hope that this was helpful. Again, oh, that's something I didn't cover. Holy shit. Okay, let's talk about castsequence macros. Now this video is like 20 minutes long. So then I guess the last thing we'll talk about is this. So how castsequence macros work, and it's funny because I get a lot of people asking me like, is this allowed? They're allowed when they're not playing the character for you in full, which there was I think back in DFA, there was like this huge thing going on with Demon Hunters where you could play basically with one button because it would just do your full rotation for you. And it would do it like somewhat flawlessly, and that was an issue. Castsequence macros, though, are really nice, and they're not against TOS unless you're abusing them, to reduce button bloat, or reduce, or to maybe make your rotation feel a little bit more smooth, or like have less buttons in it. And there's 2 ways to do this for Brewmaster. You can have Blackout Kick into Tiger Palm, and you can do Keg Smash into Breath of Fire. I don't recommend doing Keg Smash into Breath of Fire unless you're playing Salsa Bim Strength. Salsa Bim Strength is the one that Keg Smash resets Breath of Fire, so if I Keg Smash, Breath, and then if I Keg Smash again, you're going to see Breath of Fire resets. So what this means is that you pretty much always will cast Breath of Fire after Keg Smash. So what you can do is you can pretty much lump those abilities together. So if I open up my macro page, it'll actually, and we'll drag this, I don't use this currently, but if you look down here, it'll hit Keg Smash, it'll turn into Breath of Fire, I hit Breath of Fire, it turns back into Keg Smash, then it turns back into Breath of Fire, then it turns back into Keg Smash. So instead of having to hit 3, then Shift F, then 3, then Shift F, I can just hit 3, 3, 3, like you can hit the same keybind basically to do those 2 spells together. It's the same with Blackout Kick. When I Blackout Kick, it turns into Tiger Palm. Then when I Tiger Palm, it turns back into Blackout Kick. Then Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, I can Tiger Palm again, turns back into Blackout Kick. Now sometimes, as you notice, sometimes the abilities get stuck on what they were. So I'm going to Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, now it's back into Blackout Kick. I can kind of keep doing the same thing here. And what it allows is now I can pretty much just spam 1 when I want to do my single target rotation. And the reset part of this macro is what dictates when it's going to turn back and reset back to the start of that order. after not hitting the keybind for X amount of seconds. So in the case of Keg Smash right now, I have it at reset 5. So if I Keg Smash, but then I don't hit the macro again for 5 seconds, it's going to turn back into Keg Smash. Or the other alternative is that when you finish the sequence, so for Blackout Kick, it's a little different because I have it set to, I believe it's 2. So if I don't hit the macro for 2 seconds, which is like basically a global and a half, 2 globals, it'll reset regardless of where I'm at in this order. So right now the order is Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm. Now, if I happen to hit 2 Tiger Palms, it'll reset back to Blackout Kick. But if you know anything about globals, even if I'm spamming this button, it's going to pretty much finish when I have just, it's 2 seconds left. But you're going to have other abilities to hit. Now, what you could do is if you really want to get freaky with it, you could make it 4 Tiger Palms, I guess. But I have it just to 2. But if I don't hit it for 2 seconds, it means that it's going to reset back to Blackout Kick anyways. And this is to make sure, and this is what I've done, is to make sure that it's available. Because if you like Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, it's still not going to reset for 2 seconds if you have 4 in there. And so you always want your Blackout Kick to be available because it's your highest, pretty much one of your highest single targeting abilities. And it obviously feeds into Blackout Combo. So like in this example, especially because like Rising Sun Kick also does a lot of damage, you do want to use it often. You'll like Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm. Now it's going to reset after 2 seconds. And so now it's available immediately. Now I could go like this into Tiger Palm, into Rising Sun Kick, back into Tiger Palm, and now I'm back up to Blackout Kick. So I found that this macro setup works best in actual combat, but if you're like, you want to play around with it, you definitely can. So those are all my macros. I guess my second exit to the video. Again, they're all available in my Discord. I will try to put them in the I don't know how many characters I'm limited to in the description of the video, but I'm going to try to leave them there. If not, I'll try to pin them as a comment or something. Feel free to use. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. I hope this video made sense. I hope it helps you, and good luck in all your runs. Big shout out to all my Patreon supporters, because without you guys, I couldn't make content like this. I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.